Fiducci continued in a calmer voice. Turn your jackets inside out. It's a way to break clamor. He gave a movement of his head towards me, almost a bow. I forgot that one. The others hesitated for a second. Fiducci took off his own jacket and turned it inside out, then put it back on. It seemed to galvanize the rest. Most of them began taking off their jackets. Pamela Nelson said as she folded her jacket so the seam showed, I'm wearing a cross. I thought that protected me from glamour. I answered her, crosses and Bible verses would only work if we were of the devil. We have no connection to the Christian religion, either for good or ill. She looked down as if embarrassed to meet my eyes. I didn't mean to imply anything. Of course not, I said. My voice was as empty as I said it. I'd heard the insult too often to take it to heart. One of the things the early church did was to paint anything they could not control as evil. Fairy was something they could not control. As the Seelie court became more and more human-friendly, the parts of Fairy that could not or would not play human became part of the Unseelie court. Since the things that humans perceive as frightening are mostly at the Unseelie court, we got painted as evil over the centuries. You are evil! Stephen screamed it again. His eyes bulged, his pulse was racing, his face pale and beaded with sweat. Is he sick? Pamela Nelson asked. In a way, I said, softly enough, that I wasn't sure any of the humans in the room heard me. Whoever had done the spell on the watch had done too good a job, or a bad one. The spell was forcing Stevens to see nightmares when he looked at us. His mind wasn't coping well with what he was seeing and feeling. I turned to Fiducci. The ambassador seems ill. Perhaps he should be taken to see a doctor. No, Stephen chilled. No, without me here, they will take over your minds. He grabbed Biggs, who was closer. Without the king's gift, you will all believe their lies. I think the princess is right, Ambassador Stevens, Biggs said. I think you are ill. Stephen's hands dug into the inside-out designer jacket that Biggs was now wearing. Surely you see them for what they are now. They look like all the Sidhe to me, except for the color of Captain Dole's skin, and the princess being petite. They look like nobles of the Sidhe court. Stephen shook the bigger man. The darkness has fangs, the killing frost has skulls hanging from his neck, and she's withered, dying, her mortal blood contaminates her. Ambassador? Biggs began. No, you must see it, as I do. They didn't change at all when we turned our jackets inside out, Pamela Nelson said. She sounded a little disappointed. I told you we were not doing active glamour on any of you, I said. Lies! I see the horror of you. Stevens hid his face against Biggs' broad shoulders as if he could not bear the sight of us, and perhaps he could not. It is easier not to look at them, though, Shelby said. Cortez nodded. I can focus better now, but they look the same. Beautiful, Cortez's assistant said. Cortez gave him a sharp look, and the assistant apologized as if that one word was totally out of line. Stevens had begun to sob into Biggs' designer suit. You must get him away from us, Dole said. Why? One of the others asked. The spell on the watch makes him see monsters when he looks at us. I fear his mind will break under the strain of it without King Tyrannus nearby to ease the effects. Can't you just undo the spell? Fiducci asked. It is not our spell, Dole said simply. Can't you help him? Pamela Nelson asked. I think the less contact with us, the better for the ambassador. Stevens had seemed to be trying to bury his face in a big shoulder. The ambassador's hands twisted in seams and lining the coat. Being near us is hurting him, Frost said, speaking for the first time since the introductions. His voice did not have the depths of Dole's, but the width of his chest gave it weight. Get some security up here, Biggs said to Farmer. And though Farmer was a very powerful man in his own right, and a full partner, he moved for the door. I guess when your daddy is one of the founders of a firm, and you the leading active partner, you still have clout, even over other partners. We stood in a silence, the humans giving awkward body language and facial expressions, as if they were terribly uncomfortable with the display of mad emotion. It was a type of madness, but the three of us had seen worse. We'd seen madness that had magic to it, the kind of magic that could steal the breath from your body or on a laughing wind. Uniformed security came. I recognized one of the guards from the entrance desk. They had a doctor with them. I remembered reading several doctors' names on the board outside the elevator. Apparently Farmer had exceeded his orders, but Biggs seemed very pleased to hand the sobbing man over to the doctor. No wonder Farmer had made partner. He followed orders to the letter, but built on them, made them better. No one said anything else until they led the ambassador from the room, and the door closed quietly behind him. Biggs straightened his tie and tugged at the wrinkled suit jacket. Inside out or right side out, the suit was ruined until a dry cleaner got hold of it. He started to take the jacket off, then glanced at us and stopped. I caught his eye, and he looked away embarrassed. It's all right, Mr. Biggs, if you're afraid to take your jacket off. Ambassador Stevens' mind seems quite broken. I would advise the doctor to have a licensed practitioner of the arts look at the watch before you simply remove it. Why? He's worn that watch for years. It may have become a part of his psyche, his mind. To simply remove it could do much harm. Biggs reached for a phone. Why didn't you say something before he was led away? Shelby asked. I only now thought of it, I said. I thought of it before they left, Dole said. Why didn't you speak up? Cortez said. It is not my job to protect the ambassador. It's everyone's job to help another human in such a state, Shelby said, and then looked surprised if he'd just heard what he'd said. Dole gave the smallest curl of lips. But I am not human. I think the ambassador is weak and without honor. Queen Ondias has lodged several complaints with your government about the ambassador. She was ignored, but even she could not have foreseen such a treachery as this. Treachery of our government against yours, Fiducci asked. No, King Tyrannus' treachery against someone who trusted him. The ambassador saw that watch as a mark of high favor, when in fact it was a trap and a lie. You disapprove? Pamela Nelson said. Do you not also disapprove? Dole asked. She started to nod and then looked away blushing. Apparently, even with her jacket turned, she couldn't help reacting to him. He was worth reacting to, but I didn't like that she was having this much trouble. The charges would be hard enough without us making the prosecutors blush. What would the king have gained from poisoning the ambassador against your court? Has asked. What have the silly always gained from blackening the name of the unseelie? I said. All right, Shelby said. What have they gained? Fear, I said. They have made their people fear us. What did that gain them? Shelby asked. Frost spoke. The greatest punishment of all is to be cast out of the silly court, the golden court. But it is punishment because Tyrannus and his nobles have convinced themselves that once you join the unseelie court, you become a monster, not just in actions, but in body. They tell their people that they will become deformed if they join with the unseelie. You talk like you know, Pamela Nelson said. I was once part of the Golden Throng, long ago, Frost said. What did you do to earn exile? Shelby said. Lieutenant Frost doesn't have to answer that, Biggs said. He stopped fussing with his suit and was back to being one of the best lawyers in the West Coast. Is the answer prejudicial to the charges brought against the other guards? Shelby asked. No, Biggs said, but since the lieutenant is not included in the charges filed, the question is outside the scope of this investigation. Biggs had lied smoothly, effortlessly, lied as if he were the truth. He actually didn't know Frost's answer would have been prejudicial, because he had no idea why anyone but the 3 guards in question had been exiled from the Sealy Court. Though in Galen's case, he hadn't been exiled because he'd been born and raised in the Unseelie Court. You can't be exiled from what you've never been a part of. Biggs had carefully not asked any questions that might interfere with the linear defense of his clients. This is a very informal proceeding, Viducci said with a smile. He radiated harmless good old boy charm. It was a trick, bordering on a lie. He researched us. He dealt with the courts more than any of the other lawyers. He was either going to be our greatest ally or our most difficult opponent. He continued, still smiling and letting us see those tired eyes. We are all here today to see if the charges that King Tyrannus filed on behalf of Lady Katrine should be followed up with more formal proceedings. Cooperation would give strength to the Princess's guards' denials. Since all the guards have diplomatic immunity, we're here out of courtesy, Biggs said. We do appreciate that, Viducci said. Do bear in mind, Shelby said, that King Tyrannus has stated that all the Queen's guards, and now the Princess's guard, are a danger to everyone around them, most especially women. He stated that this rape did not surprise him. He seemed to think it was the inevitable outcome of allowing the Queen's Raven Guard unlimited access, even inside Barry. One of the reasons he brought these charges to human authorities, an unprecedented action in all the history of the Sealy Court, is that he feared for us. If a she-noble of Lady Katrine's magical powers could be so easily taken, then what hope did mere humans have against their lusts? Unnatural lusts, I said. Shelby shifted those gray eyes to me. I did not say that. No, you didn't, but I'm betting my Uncle Tyrannus did. Shelby gave a little shrug. He doesn't seem to like you or men much, that is true. Or me, I said. Shelby's face showed surprise, and I wish I could have told if it was genuine, or if he was lying with his face. The king had only good things to say about you, Princess. He seems to feel that you have been... He seemed to change what he was about to say at the last moment. Led astray by your aunt, the Queen, and her guards. Led astray? I made it a question. He nodded. That's not what he said, is it? Not in so many words, no. It must have been truly insulting for you to pretty it up like this, I said. Shelby actually looked uncomfortable. Before I saw Ambassador Stevens and his reaction to you, and the possible spell on his watch, I might have simply stated what the king said. Shelby gave me a very straightforward look out of his handsome face. Let's say that Stevens has made me wonder at the vehemence of King Tyrannus' dislike of all your guard. All my guard. Again I made it a question with the upward lilt of my voice. Yes. I looked at Viducci. He charges all my men with crimes? No, only the 3 mentioned, but Mr. Shelby is correct. King Tyrannus stated that your Raven Guard is a danger to all women. He thinks that having been made celibate for so long has driven them insane. Viducci's face never changed as he let out one of the biggest secrets of the fairy courts. I opened my mouth to say, Tyrannus wouldn't have told you that, but Dole's hand on my shoulder stopped me. I looked up at the dark figure of him. Even through his black sunglasses, I knew the look. The look said careful. He was right. Viducci had stated earlier that he had sources at the Unseelie Court. Tyrannus might not have said it at all. This is the first we've heard that the king is accusing the Raven Guard of being celibate, Biggs said. He glanced at Dole, but put his attention back on Shelby and Viducci. The king felt that the long-enforced celibacy was the reason for the attack. Biggs leaned in to me and whispered, Is this true? Were they forced to be celibate?